We are collecting branches from a generous neighbor who just pruned some oak trees during fall. Once the leaves started to drop, I pulled the remaining leaves off all the branches until they were completely bare. Moving to the front door, I am placing 2 old metal buckets on each side of the entry area. I'm now grabbing the largest of the branches and positioning them into the buckets, then using smaller branches as fillers tucked in around them. Grabbing some florist's wire, I'm winding the wire around the bulk of the branches to secure them together. Moving the branches close to the wooden door frame, I'm using an electric stapler to attach the wire to the woodwork to secure the branches in one spot. As I'm working, I'm pruning off any branches that will hinder the door from swinging or people walking around it. I'm now choosing 2 of the longest branches to create a slight curve on top when combined and long enough to reach both front door lights. They are being wrapped with wire to secure them together. After making a few branch trims, I'm carrying the tied branches to position them over top of each light. After adding a few more branch fillers, I'm wiring them to any other secure branches within reach. After a quick pruning, I'm now untangling some white stringed outdoor mini lights. My intention had been to use lights with green strings. However, since I didn't have enough, I have a plan to make this look even better than my original idea. Grabbing some Faux snow spray, I'm spraying the branches so they look like fresh blown snow all over them, which also chimes in beautifully with the white stringed lights. If you'd like a more permanent option, you can also paint the branches with white spray paint before they are mounted. To better secure the branches over the door area, I screwed 2 boards together, then mounted them in the middle of the door. And the result is a whimsical front door winter scene that resembles stepping into Narnia. Wow, what an effect during the day and at night. The white stringed lights look positively charming, draped on the white snowy branches, mimicking sparkling snow. I hope this inspires you to save some pruned branches to create a light-up winter tree arch of your own.
The next time you're out for a walk, pick up small branches or sticks of different lengths from each other. Place the branches on a table and take inventory. Lay them out horizontally on your table with the shortest branch on one end and the longest on the other. Also, if there are any sharp or protruding edges or branch ends, cut them off safely using a small saw. Take some jute twine and tie the end to one end of the shortest branch. Once secure, tie the twine to the end of the second branch. Hold them up to make sure the twine length between the 2 branches is even. Now, take some of your favorite Christmas ornaments and lay them out on the table in between the different branches. Start with larger ornaments and then fill in with smaller ornaments. Vary the ornament types. You could include ball ornaments, solid colors, plaids and patterns, and even dangling ornaments. Once you have an arrangement that you like, take small pieces of jute twine and tie the ornaments to the branch that is above it. Hang your new branch Christmas tree on a wall and enjoy. Notice how it takes up no floor space and makes a festive holiday statement for any wall.
So I headed outside and I started with some branches, and then I took some Rust-Oleum spray paint, and then I just began spray painting all the branches. I did short light blasts to make sure that I didn't get any drips or runs, and then once the branches were completely dry, I brought them inside. Next, I took this container that I got from my local home decor store, and it's not exactly like the base of the lamp that I saw online, but I do like this style and I think it'll complement my project perfectly. So next, I took some Oasis dry floral foam and I cut it down to fit within my container. So I just began slicing off the edges of it so that it was more the shape of the container, and then it would just slide in. I did cut it off so that it would fit slightly just under the rim of my container because I don't want to see the floral foam from the top. Once that was done, I began sticking in my gold branches. Once I stuck in my first branch, it was a little wobbly, so I just used this little piece of plastic. It's actually called a floral frog, and you just stick it in the bottom of the floral foam, and then you can apply hot glue to the bottom of that, and then you can secure your floral foam into your container. So once it was secured and in my container, I could continue adding more branches till I was happy with the look of everything. Next, I took this dry florals. This is actually called rustico, and I cut off tiny branches from it, and then I applied them to my branches using hot glue. I began placing them all over, but making sure that I cut different sizes of pieces, and making sure as well that I cut them as close to the leaves as possible before sticking them into my tree so that it didn't have any unsightly branches sticking out. Next, I took these fairy lights and then I strung them through the tree. Now, when I was doing this, I realized that I probably should have stuck the fairy lights on before sticking my leaves on because it was a little bit difficult working the fairy lights in, but live and learn, and now I know for next time. I next took some fine grit white sand and then I placed it around the base of my tree just to cover that unsightly floral foam. And this is my completed project. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out, and even though it's not exactly like the lamp I saw online, I'm pretty happy that I was able to create something after being inspired by a very expensive product that I found online. I hope that you enjoyed my creative dupe on this lamp. Thanks so much for tuning into Hometalk.
Grab a box of borax. You'll need a bucket or container large enough to fit your branches without them touching the sides of the container or each other. Fill your chosen container with enough water till the branches are covered to the length you want. You'll then transfer the water to a large pot, noting how many cups of water you've poured. For every 1 cup of water you use, you'll need 3 tablespoons of borax. Bring the water to a boil and have your measured borax ready to go in a bowl. Once the water has come to a boil, carefully pour it back into your container. Add the borax and stir till dissolved. Submerge your branches and let them sit undisturbed for a full 24 hours. Then carefully remove your crystallized branches from the solution and place them on a towel to dry completely. You can use any kind of branch, stem, or twig. It's always interesting to see how the crystals cling to various surfaces such as seed pods and leaves. Once the crystals have dried completely, you can arrange your branches however you like. Of course, you can simply display them in a vase or get creative and use a hot glue gun to attach them to the outside of a jar for a rustic effect. Tie on a ribbon and insert a votive for a pretty winter display.
This $4 plastic planter pot, and I took it outside and I spray painted it with this almond and let that dry, and then I followed it up with this Rust-Oleum Accent stone spray paint. The almond paint was just a primer first to spray my pot, and then the stone covered the entire pot very nicely. And then I'm left with this nice textured pot. Next, I took some gravel that I just picked up from outside and I placed it in the bottom of my pot. I want to add a bit of heaviness to the bottom of my pot so it's nice and stable for my tree. Then I took a piece of dry floral foam and I placed it in the bottom of my bucket. I cut another brick in half just to shove down the sides here so that it would stay in place better. This floral foam is going to help my tree stay in place and also as well heighten it a bit so I don't have to shove my tree all the way down to the bottom of my pot. Next, I gathered this large branch from outside. You want to find a branch that has lots of twigs and sticks on it. Then I took these artificial cherry blossom flowers and I used my hot glue gun to glue them onto the twigs. I tried to replicate a real cherry blossom tree as best I could by finding images online. Before placing all my cherry blossom blooms on the branch, I decided to stick the branch into my floral foam and then seal it with some mixed up concrete cement. And then that way I could finish gluing the rest of my cherry blossoms on my tree while it was standing up straight, so I had a better idea of how it would look. So I placed all the cement in and around just to fill in any gaps and stabilize my stick in my pot. I let the cement set fully and then I continued gluing on the cherry blossom flowers. It was much easier to work with the tree standing straight up than flat on my work surface. Once my cement had set, I came back in with this tricolor moss just to place in the bottom of my pot. You could certainly leave just the cement showing, but I like a little bit of moss for a little bit of extra greenery at the bottom of my pot. With my tree all done and complete, I placed it in my home for a gorgeous spring touch to my decor. I love how realistic this tree looks because I did use a real branch from outside, and I think it just adds that perfect pop of pink to my home for springtime. You can replicate this DIY with any kind of florals or blooms or leaves that you like. I hope that this DIY inspires you to get creative with stuff that you can find in and around outside.